Hello guys! In this week's episode, my dad is gonna film the boatyard aligning the deck of our new boat, and in the meantime, I'm just gonna rest because I'm the boss.
Well, if you watched our last episode, you know that at this point, our deck, after a lot of preparation and a lot of work, it's finally sitting on the top of the hull. The next step is to align to make sure it's straight, that's not crooked, because of course, it's a huge piece that's like 6 meters long by 4 meters wide, so they need to make sure that it's on the right alignment and also on the right height. They have a reference line on each one of the sides of the boat, and the deck needs to be exactly on the reference line. In this way, with the frames in place and on the line, that means you have the right curvature and the deck is the way it should be. The step number one in order to make sure that the deck of the boat is on the right position is to make sure that the deck can slide forward enough. And that, even though it seems like a simple task, it's not necessarily that simple. Every time you weld aluminum, it hits a lot the material and then it cools down, and that creates deformation. And sometimes a little tiny deformation can change a lot for the next step. In this case, they're trying and the deck wouldn't go forward enough, and the reason for that is because the side plates of the boat were a little bit with too little angle. That means the distance in between plates was too short by a tiny little bit, but enough to not let the deck slide in position. And that means they needed to bend a little bit the side plates into shape. All you need to do to fix that is to have some creativity and to use a lot of force, and of course they can do that. So now they're just trying to align, and then they're gonna tack weld and you have a deck in place. Step number two, in order to make sure the deck's in the right position, now that the deck's forward enough, we need to make sure that the deck is aligned sideways, that is square to the sides of the boat. And after a lot of work, they could not manage to get to the right position until we realized that there was one tiny little problem. It's insane to work with a lift, like I don't know how we call a bridge. It's insane when you have a bridge on your disposal. So now they're gonna take the entire deck of the boat again out, and the reason for that is because we found that the pipe for the chain, because our chain locker is gonna be on the foot of the mast, and there's a pipe that runs from the bow all the way to the mast, and this pipe is touching the frame of the hatch of the sail locker, and that means the deck it's not possible for the deck to go to the right position, to turn sideways. So they need to create space for the pipe to go a little bit more towards the port side, and when you do that, then the deck is going to be easier to slide to the right position. So, you take the deck out, the entire deck out of the boat, you fix the pipe, and then you put the deck back. So now that the deck is finally sitting on the right position, it's finally time to tack weld the deck to the side plates of the boat and to the internal frames. But, there is always a but, I don't know if you remember, but I mentioned before that when they welded the two plates of the deck together, they got a little bit of deformation on the entire panel, and they need to fix that. And in order to fix that, what they do is they tack weld where the panel is sitting on the frame, and then where it's not sitting on the frame, they put some weight, and the weight, gravity, will put the panel down, they tack weld, and they keep moving this weight around the deck. Yeah, that's a pallet of lead that's really, really heavy, and that's another perk of having a bridge, because they can keep moving this, I don't know, maybe half ton or a ton of lead around with no effort at all, and this speeds up the process so much. So now that the forward deck's finally in position, tack welded with the right shape, looking great, it's time to work on the side decks. And this starts with grinding, because we need to make sure that the frames are aligned with the reference line on the side plate, and as soon as we have everything looking good, we can bring with the bridge the side decks to place, and we can tack weld that in place to make sure we have everything on the right shape. By the way, these tack welds are just to hold the panels in place in the right shape, in the right position, because in the future, of course, you're going to weld fully the deck in place to become watertight. I think this has been the most tricky part so far on the building of the new boat. We are right now trying to level the deck, trying to make the deck in the right shape and have right curvature. And for that, we need to measure the height of the frames to make sure the frames have the right height. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a deck like this, like up and down, or we're not going to have the right drainage to the sides and to the bow. So yeah, it's been some work to, you know, aluminum you weld and you deform and it shrinks, it expands, but somehow it will go to place. It's looking much better already. That's so cool. We can walk on the top of the boat already. Now that we have the deck in place, it's much easier to show you around, to understand the volumes and the spaces on the boat. So here, as you can tell, there is a huge empty space with no deck, and that's because this is the deck saloon area. And in this area we have the saloon, we have the nav station, we have the galley, and we have a wet locker. From here forward, the mast is right there. Here's the hatch for the windlass. This is the pipe that takes the chain from the bow to the windlass, and the chain locker is going to be underneath here. Here's the hatch for our cabin. We're still missing at least 2 hatches here that we are not sure the position yet. That's why we decided to do it later, because they are for the head, and we want to know exactly where we want the hatches before we do it. This one is for the bow cabin, for the V-berth. And here is the old chain locker that now is just a sail locker, a fender locker. That's a pretty big locker just for lines and fenders. And the good thing that I'm really happy with, we were afraid that the passage in between the side of the boat and the deck saloon would be too narrow, because it's just the design of the boat. You know, when you design a boat, you cannot have everything. If you want to have space on the saloon, you need to be a little bit wide, and if you're wide, then you don't have that much space to pass on the side. And in the end, it's really good. Check this out. It's really spacious, actually. Of course, you're gonna have the stays somewhere around there, but I believe it's gonna be 100% fine. And on this part here is the cockpit. You can see how wide the cockpit is. So that's the backrest of one side, that's the backrest of the other side. Here's where the winch is gonna be. The other winch is gonna be there. We're gonna have a secondary winch around here. And here we're gonna have a little step. So one step down. Oof, I made it. Yeah, so here is gonna be the step, and then you come down. The steering wheel is gonna be here. The seat of the cockpit starts around here and goes all the way to the bulkhead. So that means we have like 185 meters long seat, and really wide, as you can tell. So the seat's from here to there. The reason why it's so wide is because we really wanted a seat that we can sleep comfortably when we are on the way. If we want to sleep on the cockpit, there's enough space to sleep really well. And we have a lot of space in between seats. So one seat ends here, the other one begins here. So we have plenty of space to have the passage on the starboard side, and then a table on the port side. There's going to be a L-shaped seat there. We're going to cut the door here is steel. Here's going to be a workshop. Here is going to be storage place. Here is going to be all the steering equipment. So the rudder is going to be right down here in the center. We're going to have the steering coming down from that wheel, the steering coming down from this wheel, and the deck is going to be this high all the way to here, and then it goes down one step. And this is going to be the swing platform that's going to go all the way up to here, and then we can put it down. We're going to have a seat that goes all the way from one side to the other side of the boat, and that we can open on the middle to create a passage to go inside the boat. One thing I'm really excited is that now I can see the volume of my tiny workshop. So here is going to be the seat of the cockpit, and it's going to be an L-shaped seat on this side, so we can have a big hatch that we go down the ladder here, and then you have this space for the workshop. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to have a proper workshop, or if it's just going to be like tools storage and equipment storage. But anyways, it's going to be awesome to have a dedicated place for all the tools and everything, all the spare parts, always going to be here, and that's going to be so cool. And on this side is just storage. I hope this little tour made sense. For me now, it's much easier to see things and to understand the volume. And now that we can make sure that everything is in the right place, in the right shape, in the next episode they can fully weld the boat inside, and then they can flip the boat around and fully weld the outside. And that means after that we have a hull and deck. We just need to build the cockpit and the deck saloon. I mean, the keel, the rudder, the shaft, it's still some work to come, but we are moving forward really good. I'm really excited. I can't wait to see this hole ready so I can start doing my part, start doing the woodworking inside, and that's gonna be just freaking awesome. See you guys next one.